One Piece continues its transition into a clip show with chapter 1115, as once again a majority of the chapter is taken up by us revisiting previous islands and seeing the reaction of characters we know to Vegapunk's message about the Void Century. I gotta say, the most surprising stop we have in this chapter is in Wano. I honestly was not expecting the country most closed off from the outside world to have any way of receiving this broadcast, but in retrospect, it does make total sense that they would. Because during the raid, we saw the CP0 agents present at Onigashima using a Dendamushi to contact their bosses, so all Oda had to do was say that someone had grabbed them before sinking the giant skull. He didn't even have to mention Orochi having one tucked away, but that was also a strong possibility that I didn't see anyone mention. Also, while we're still on the subject of revisiting past islands, and it really pains me to say this, but unfortunately, my fellow Carrot believers, we had to finally throw in the towel, as we see her in this chapter fulfilling her role as the new leader of the Minks. So yeah, there goes all the theories and speculations about how she might be hidden away on the Sunny, trapped in one of those barrels, possibly the one that has a rabbit symbol on it, or that she accidentally got on Kid's ship at the end of Wano, and that we see her again in Elbaf. We had to put all that aside and accept the cold reality that our favorite bunny girl will not be joining the crew. But in the wake of her departure from the race of possible new crewmates, this chapter did revive the chances of one possible candidate, chances which I had thought completely died off just 3 chapters ago. And that is Vegapunk's first successful clone, Stussy. You see, she had resigned herself to dying in chapter 1112, planning to stay behind and manually lower the barrier around the Laplo phase at the last possible second when the Dousy Sunny took off, sacrificing herself to ensure that the Straw Hats and Bonnie got away safely. All because Vegapunk, whether he survived or not, wanted to make sure they made it out, and since she believed her only purpose in life was to serve him, she was willing to go to any means necessary to carry out his final wish. But now that he's gone, and she's been freed from that burden, we see her struggling with where she goes from here. How does a clone keep on living when the person they lived for is gone? That is the question she's stuck on, and one that I think she'll be able to find an answer to by sticking with the Straw Hats. Though, that being said, this chapter does present the idea that there's also the possibility that she might find her answer in Kaku. He was front and center during her conversation with Edison in this chapter, and Oda made it clear to us that while he should be furious with her for betraying them, he actually feels pretty bad for her. Combine that with him discovering the truth about the Gorosei and their yokai forms, them having no regard for his well-being, and Vegapunk's message about the Void Century, and it wouldn't surprise me if after all of this, he just walks away from it all and takes Stussy with him. But the big question in that scenario is, would Lucci end up joining them? Which, honestly, I don't know. I'll let you guys discuss that in the comments down below. And then of course there's Bonnie, who's still also a candidate to become a member of the crew, but at this point it seems like whether or not she'll end up joining is a 50-50 chance. Personally, I would love for her to join because I feel like there's a good brother-sister dynamic going on between her and Luffy, but if somehow, some way, Kuma miraculously ends up surviving this arc, I could see her just going off with him alone. Anyway, most of what Vegapunk says in this chapter is stuff we already sorta knew by piecing together what sprinkles of info we had already gotten about the Void Century, although 2 things did stick out to me. For one, we find out that during the Void Century, the sea levels rose by 200 meters, sinking, as Vegapunk calls it, the ancient world, and we even get a visual cue of exactly how tall that is when someone points out that their local mountain is about that size. We also get a look at what one of the cities from that time currently look like as it's completely submerged in the ocean. I'm not sure if this specific city is meant to be important or just showcasing what could happen to the rest of the world in the future if the sea levels rise again. But if we continue to showcase the same place every time we reference the sunken world, then we can bet it's going to have some plot relevance in the future. I know a lot of fans and speculators have been throwing around the idea of Atlantis having some kind of role in the story of One Piece. If we continue to revisit the same spot, we might see that actually coming true and this city being revealed to be Atlantis. Also worth noting, the giant fish just chilling in the background, probably just there for aesthetic purposes, but I don't know. Something about it just screams, I'm important. Maybe it's a giant eye just staring directly into our souls. And then there's this panel where we get a small glimpse at a silhouette of Joy Boy fighting against the 20 Kingdoms, although we only see 3 of the kings in that panel. None of them look like Emu, but then again, we don't know what Emu actually looks like, so for all we know, they could be one of those 3. Also, we do get a shot of Emu in the chapter, and surprisingly enough, they don't seem bothered by this news getting out. I mean, to be fair though, when all we can see of a character is their eyes, and their eyes are almost always wide open like Emus are, it gets hard to tell their emotional state. But seeing as how they're just nonchalantly playing with butterflies in this chapter, they don't seem to be too stressed out. I think we've all been contemplating exactly how Emu will react to this broadcast and what kind of punishment they'll give to the Gorosei for failing to stop it, but what if they're okay with it? I mean, think about it. This might be the most freeing thing that could ever happen for them. Once Vegapunk's message is done and the big secret is out, Emo will be able to openly do whatever they want. No more hiding behind the five elders and being discreet. They could come out and snuff out as many lights as they wish. And to them, it would be completely justified because now the entire world has broken the taboo of learning about the forbidden history. I mean, sure, it was kind of forced on them, but we've seen Emo. They're not going to care. And you know what? It just dawned on me, this might be the best, most organic way for Oda to reveal Emo's character design, having them reveal it to the whole world at the same time as revealed to us. Though, with all that said, I do still believe that there will be some kind of punishment waiting for the Gorosei once they return to Marijoa, if the broadcast is allowed to continue playing, which they are pulling out everything they have to try and stop it. For example, Venus ends up slicing Punk Records completely in half in this chapter. Very cool, very powerful, possibly one of the most impressive things we've seen from one of the Gorosei this entire arc, though, to be fair, most of what we've seen is from Saturn, and he hasn't been the best rep for them. Honestly, the more we see from the Elders, the more it really does seem like Saturn might be the weakest of them, which I find wild because I was betting on it being the Worm. Also, we're pointing out the captured Cypherpole agents and, more importantly, the Seraphim were set free when Venus cut the lab in half in this chapter, but the Navy are making an effort to rescue them, which means that more than likely once they're free, things will be even harder for the Straw Hats. Though, I still stand by the idea that at least S Snake might have gained enough of a personality to disobey any order to directly hurt Luffy. The others are free reign, but when it comes to Luffy, I don't see it. I can also see S Bear choosing not to hurt Bonnie directly, or I can see it also being revealed that Vegapunk did the same thing with him that he did with the Pacifistas, giving Bonnie direct control over him. The other two, though, there's no question. Once they're given a direct order by the Gorosei to hurt the Straw Hats or hunt them down, they are going right for them. Now, real quick, I want to wind things back to the shot we got of Joy Boy versus the 20 Kingdoms, because one thing that popped in my mind during the reading of this chapter was that Nefertari D. Lily was one of the ones who sided with the world government against Joy Boy and his allies, and yet we know that she declined to join them as a world noble and actively worked to preserve the poneglyphs which held the secrets of the world that the remaining kingdoms wanted buried. So because of that, we can tell that obviously she didn't exactly agree with the other 19 kingdoms, but if that's the case, why would she work with them against Joy Boy, who's been touted to be the hero of the story this entire time? And it makes me think, maybe the reason why Oda won't have Vegapunk outright state that Joy Boy was good and the 20 kingdoms were bad, because it might have been the reverse. What if Joy Boy was the villain of the story this entire time? Maybe not intentionally, but whatever he was trying to accomplish was not good for the world as a whole. That could explain why she sided against him, Zunisha's crime, and why he failed to begin with. But let me know in the comments down below, do you think it is at all possible that Joy Boy might have been the villain all along?